I think video game soundtracks are kind of underrated. Well, unless you're annoying on Twitter.
You're not affiliated with me!
But unless the soundtrack is really memorable, or it's like a rhythm game or something, where that's the entire point, I feel like the music will kind of just slip into the background. Which is why I think it's interesting when the music is really memorable. When it makes you stop and think, hey, that was cool. Where it might not be the point, but a point. I don't actually want to talk about soundtracks as much as I want to talk about, like... I know. It's just... Okay, listen. Minecraft.
I agree with that!
Hotline Miami. Persona 4. Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, more specifically, cool-ass moments in the game matching cool-ass moments in the song. Oh my god. The literal first example of this being cool-ass intros. Like, when I boot up a game, and the literal first thing I hear is... followed by the most aggressively cheerful sequence of images I've ever seen. You know I'm ready to roll some balls around. It's the same thing with Jet Set Radio! The soundtrack is so important in that game that everyone is already dancing to the beat. Like, we haven't even started the game yet. Another good example is Metal Gear Solid 3, which... it is cool that some of you can already probably guess the examples I'm going to use, but... besides those, Metal Gear Solid 3 just straight up has like a James Bond intro sequence using the theme song. And it's really cool. I usually listen to it at least once every time I load up the game. And I don't mean to undersell it or anything, but we are talking more about Metal Gear later, so... Fighting games. Fighting games have this a lot. I don't know of a single fighting game that doesn't have a little scissor reel at the beginning showing off every character. That, I'm sorry, are probably the most skipped intros ever. Like, Smash, I love you, but I know what characters are in the game. I just want to get back to being called Gay Watch as fast as possible. You can already probably tell that I'm kind of cheating with these. Like, okay, anyone can go and watch a little YouTube music video, but what am I actually talking about? First of all, bold of you to assume that I have a point. And second of all, have you played Prey? The game that just straight up lies to you for the first 10 minutes, making you roleplay an average, normal, slice-of-life day as a member of the corporate elite. You take a helicopter ride through San Francisco, and the credits are presented in this really cool way where they're like incorporated into the environment, but that's neither here nor there. It's actually over there. The song you're listening to is this really nice blend of like genuinely comforting and chill, and with just a tinge of that fake corporate feel. It's pretty much the only song like that on the soundtrack. It's called Everything Will Be Okay, and for the moment, that's how it makes you feel. Spoilers, nothing will be okay. Prey, generally, is kind of more of a quiet game. When you're not getting swarmed by Typhon, it tends to go for more of a gentle and unsettling feeling, somehow alienating you even more from when you were in the intro. Later in the game, for various reasons, you have to collect voice samples from a specific character, and one of them happens to be her performing in a club, and you happen to have to replay it out loud, lighting effects included. And not only is this song just really fucking cool, but the game also spawns like 5 enemies at this point, which, depending on your resource management at this point of the game, isn't impossible, but it's not a cakewalk either. But the music just begins to whisper to me. What are you saying? Alright, bitch. It's time to go out, and it's time to fuck some shit up. It's cool, because there's no one straight up just telling you that you have to go out and fight these guys. Prey is still an immersive sim. You don't have to do anything. But by playing this kind of music for like the only time in the game and spawning more enemies very suddenly, like, you know what you have to do, come on. Portal is a game with an interesting relationship with its soundtrack. meaning the first game basically doesn't have one until the second half. The most interesting things you have to listen to up to that point being distant machinery, creaky walls, air moving around, which I'm sure the Aphex Twin fans are absolutely quaking over. The second game, however, not only has actual scenes with characters and music, also does this silly little thing when interacting with certain testing elements. Like, when you first start using gels, each one has its own little theme music. And less obviously, whenever you use a jump pad, there's this subtle little tune that plays as you fly through the air majestically, like an eagle, piloting a blimp. Which is cool and all, but then there's this one chamber, where you gradually open doors to jump further and further, and not only do you get the little tune, but some well-placed background sounds almost turn it into its own little song by the time you're finished. Something similar happens here with the lasers, adding more and more sounds to the receptacles you have activated. It's a really small detail, like to the point where I might just be having auditory hallucinations again, but, well, I mean, it's worth talking about either way. I mentioned the Metal Gear series earlier, and besides the James Bond opening in Snake Eater, I want to talk about maybe the most famous moment in the entire series. This fucking ladder. Okay, so the game has to put you up in the mountains, and instead of getting a jeep or maybe even a helicopter, you just climb all the way up there. As you climb, a woman begins to sing the theme song, the same one from the James Bond opening.
What a thrill, with darkness and silence through the night.
And what you thought was just a long-ass ladder climb becomes a long-ass ladder climb where you take a moment to breathe and reflect, probably over all the people you killed, and think, wow, this really was a Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Fear in my heart, but you're so supreme.
In musical theater, when the emotion becomes too strong for speech, you sing. And when it becomes too strong for song, you dance.
Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance is a musical, like by definition. Literally breaking out into song whenever emotions run high. The first time being the first boss battle, where you block a sword the size of a freighter and chop Metal Gear, just the weapon the whole series is named after, into sushi rolls over the course of like 6 seconds. Now, let me be clear. This is all really, really, really stupid. I don't usually like this kind of music even, like the late 2000s electronic anime AMV rock, as I call it. But Rising Revengeance, and specifically this, is just so goddamn cheesy and over the top. It kind of just wraps around to being fucking cool again. Past this point, every boss has its own iconic soundtrack, including the last one, which is kind of just its own thing to talk about, so I won't here.
Don't fuck with this, Senator!
But that song is another one of my favorites. Although I was kind of disappointed when this scene doesn't actually have the music in the background, like in the meme, but whatever, it's fine. I don't care. Another franchise, well, besides being known for being hard, and besides being known for lore videos, known for its music, is the Souls series, or more accurately, the Soulsborne series, or even more accurately, the Soulsborne Iro Ring series. These games have no shortage of great songs, including, spoilers, the final boss of Dark Souls 1, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. His song sounds like this. Remember that, it's important. Now, fast forward to, spoilers, the last boss of Dark Souls 3. I want you to bring yourself there, okay? It's the end of the world. The landscape is crumbling apart, folding into itself around you. The first flame is barely an ember. You've returned all the lords to their thrones, and now the one thing stopping you is the soul of Cinder. The guy from the cover.
And you are?
I'm the guy. The real guy.
There's like lore here. The soul of Cinder is like the combined representation of every Lord of Cinder before you who sacrificed themselves to the flame that keeps Dark Souls' world alive. I don't know. It's a fine boss with fine music. Really good music, in fact, until you get to the second stage. I think for a game that's criticized for just how many times it calls back to the first game, this was actually one of the really cool times where it actually worked. And I'm not done talking about Soulsborne era Ring games. Bloodborne is an interesting entry in the Souls I'm not doing that joke for a third time in a row games. In terms of timeline, it technically takes place most recently, being Victorian as opposed to the other games' medieval settings. Owing to its gothic horror inspirations, you, of course, fight werewolves, eldritch abominations, elder gods, and of course, British people. You fight a lot of beasts in Bloodborne, and from appearance it seems like Ludwig is just another one of them. I mean, an especially ugly one, but still. Of course there's extra lore, like when people heard of Ludwig, the noble hunter from the church, they didn't expect to be fighting just a British person. It all kind of seems like extra context though. I mean, nobles going mad and turning into monsters is pretty normal in every Souls game. What's not normal is halfway through, of course, Ludwig wakes up.
You were at my side all along. My true mentor, my guiding moonlight.
Not only can he actually speak, not only is he standing up straight now, but he's using the Moonlight Greatsword, a weapon that's been in every Souls game for like decades now, I think. The lyrics could even represent what the sword said back to him, like trying to give him at least an honorable death. There's the sense that you weren't even actually fighting Ludwig up until this point. And all the while the music is just... That chorus is like everyone's favorite, of course. It's so tragic and triumphant at the same time. Ludwig is considered the best boss, the best music, the best moment in the entire game, in the entire series, and for good reason too. I don't think this moment would be nearly as popular if the song didn't sound like that. If I had to pull this video into some sort of point, I wouldn't, because I'm out of school and conclusion paragraphs were invented by the bourgeoisie. I have like an entire list of proper soundtracks that I would love to talk about, and who knows, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe the theme of the video is that less is more, and you don't need an entire soundtrack or an entire hour-long video to make a point. Or maybe it's that we should all just play Prey already.